12:30, back recess, and the cold.
Sir.
Up.
Certainly. So we are going to start with the DT Rouser minor subdivision. Coming around are the findings of fact report for this development. This is a first minor from attractive record. It was actually an agricultural parcel owned by Dana and Tammy Rouser. So in order to build a home site on there, they had to go through the subdivision process to lift the agricultural exemption. So before you make any motions today for either preliminary approval with conditions or denial, you'll need to make a motion to approve the agricultural, lifting of the agricultural covenant. That's a mouthful, so just keep that in mind. So I will read through this findings of fact in order. Would you like me to read this verbatim or summarize?
Summarize, I would think, depends on the rest of you, I'd say summarize.
You're going to get tired of hearing me talk in about an hour.
And you might
You're
lose
ready
your
for me
voice
to go.
too.
Okay, and I can confirm that Dana Rouser is here in support of this development, and the rest of these folks are here for subsequent subdivisions that I'll be speaking about, so there are no members of the public that would probably care for me to read it verbatim, unless you would.
Wow.
Again, and again.
In that
Okay.
case, I agree.
So, again, applicants are Dana and Tammy Rouser. The property is located off of Lightning Barn Road, approximately 2.25 miles southeast of Townsend, Montana. I think you all are familiar with where their home site is. This is just in that general area, or where their existing home site is, I should say. So they are planning to create one lot from an existing 8.43 acre parcel. They have paid the $850 preliminary plat fee and the $140 weed fee. No obnoxious physical conditions on this property other than there is an irrigation easement kind of along the east-southeast corner of this property, and that ditch easement is drainage, not a ditch easement. It's actually the creek. It is part of the FEMA certified floodplain. However, their home site is going to be located out of the floodplain. So there'll be no issues there. So they are going through DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, for their septic and well. This should have minimal effects on agricultural productivity because no acreage is going to be removed from agricultural productivity. There's agricultural operations in the vicinity, but it will not interfere with those. Let's see, what else can I tell you? There may be some wildlife that utilize this property, but the fact that it's nearly 8.5 acres and their home site is just going to occupy a portion of that shouldn't interfere too much. Access will be off of Lightning Barn Road via a shared driveway that will access the existing home and then also this home, and so they will have no road engineering or construction because the driveway can serve 2 homes, but no more than 2 homes. Effects on emergency services should be minimal. Broadwater County Rural Fire District Chief Ed Schindel has been notified of this development, and he has responded in the application here. So in fact, since you don't have that, I will just read it aloud to you if you'd like. So this is from Fire Chief Ed Schindel. To whom this may concern, the Broadwater County Rural Fire District has some concerns for this family house addition to the district. This house will be one house on 8.43 acres. The roadway into this residence will be of proper size with no weight limits for our big trucks to travel. There will be clearance and a turnaround of sufficient size for our apparatus to maneuver through. I did not get a copy of the map for the exact position of this lot, but I do know the general area where it is located. So he didn't state what concerns he actually had, but I have informed Dana and Tammy both that they'll need to follow up with Ed to finalize that, some concerns he has for final plat approval. Utility service will be provided by Vigilante Electric. Any proposed any new students that ever utilize this property will go to the Townsend School District. No major potential health or effects on public health and safety. High winds could pose a potential safety issue. The possibility of a grass fire is a risk that could be mitigated by property owners by following fire-wise design standards and keeping a buffer zone around any structures. And stormwater flooding from the existing drainage could prove hazardous to subdivision residents who will need to remain aware of water levels in these drainages. and no parkland was required. So the order, it is hereby ordered that the preliminary plat for the DT Rouser minor subdivision is approved, subject to the conditions listed below. Final plat approval shall be contingent upon completion and compliance with these conditions. Number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply shall be submitted to the Montana Department of Environmental Quality for review and approval. The certificate of approval shall be filed with the final plat. Number 2, the stormwater drainage plan meeting the requirements of the county subdivision regulations shall be submitted to the county planning department for review and recommendation. Number 3, prior to any development and/or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the county weed district for review and approval, and this has already been completed and approved by the weed district. Number 4, plans for the location and installation of individual mailboxes shall be reviewed and approved by the U.S. Postal Service prior to installation. Number 5, the applicant will be required to submit the final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Number 6, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPHJ, the applicant and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply, as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. Number 7, the final plat shall be prepared in accordance with applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Platting Act survey requirements, and county subdivision regulations. Number 8, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenant filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations, and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, a notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, the developer and any future owners of this lot shall be made aware that the drainage is a possible flood hazard. D, any additional replacement or relocated utility lines shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. E, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property lines. F, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and/or wastewater treatment system improvements and/or maintenance. G, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and/or maintenance of the following. Subitem 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and number 2, water availability. H, a prohibition of the storage of pet foods, garbage, or continuous feeding of domestic pets outdoors or other activities that creates an attractive nuisance for wildlife species. Hay or alfalfa storage and feeding are not prohibited where livestock are permitted. I, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. J, notification of the presence of ag operations in the vicinity. K, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. L, a waiver of right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. M, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. N, a notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. Number 9, prior to filing the final plat, the following improvements shall be installed or otherwise guaranteed. A, utilities abutting and available to each lot, electrical and telephone shall be underground. And B, any necessary improvements required by the stormwater drainage plan or weed management plan. If said improvements are not installed prior to final plat, then the applicant shall enter into a written subdivision improvements agreement with Broadwater County guaranteeing the construction and installation of such improvements and shall provide an acceptable financial security guarantee in accordance with county subdivision regulations, Appendix E. Number 10, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall A, provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies. And B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate, showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders or claimants of record against the land. The applicant is financially responsible for actual outside engineering, consulting, professional and/or contracted service fees, etc., at the sole discretion of the county for additional review and/or final plat approval of the proposed subdivision. This preliminary plat shall be enforced for not more than 3 calendar years. I doubled that up. At the end of this period, the governing body may, at the request of the subdivider, extend its approval for a mutually agreed upon period of time. Any mutually agreed upon extension must be in writing and dated and signed by the members of the governing body and the subdivider or subdivider's agent. The governing body may issue more than one extension. A party as defined by 763625 MCA who is aggrieved by a decision of the governing body may, within 30 days after this decision, appeal to the Broadwater County District Court.
So, we need to, make a motion that it's, exempt, or the ag exemption. or was it you just
Yes,
stated?
to approve the lifting of the agricultural covenant.
Okay.
I'll move that we lift the agricultural covenant on this particular parcel.
I'll second the motion.
Been moved and seconded. Lift it. Back to it, off the agriculture proposal as stated there. Any discussion? No discussion, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. You need
And then just preliminary plat approval with conditions if you approve of these conditions.
oh, my conditions is about lot approval. Again, I'll ask, everybody in favor?
I have a question. The creek, are there any water rights associated with that or any issues with water rights associated with that?
That's a good question, and thank you for bringing that up. None that the owner is aware of, and the owner has lived out there for a considerable amount of time. There are no water rights associated with it in that particular location, and if you do have more questions of Dana, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer those. He has more understanding of the direction of that water after it leaves your property.
Yeah, when it comes down through, well, from Deep Creek down through Swans and crosses the road, and then comes down through Sean's, and then it comes into ours just a little bit, and then comes back into Sean's, that's a diversion point for, Hahn, Linda White, Arnett's, and Gary Olson. But once it leaves that point and comes back into this piece here, there's no water takeout whatsoever, it just flows right back into Deep Creek. And it's basically, just in the summertime when they're running irrigation water there. So.
And from previous subdivisions, we know that you can't do anything to dam up the creek
Yeah.
or anything to hinder down water usage. So, yeah, that's all I've got.
And I usually go down and clean the brush out of it anyway,
I think you're allowed to
so
do
it
that.
doesn't dam up.
We did put a note on the plat too, that the width is undetermined of an easement, and it protects anyone with water rights.
Nice.
That may show up or whatever, but it is, so there is verbiage on the plat to protect the irrigation easement.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And this is the same language we've used for every
Mhm.
development that has any type of irrigation structure on it, or water.
Okay.
I don't
Those
have
are all
any
my
questions.
Okay. I'll move that we grant preliminary plat to DT minor subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
Second, we ran preliminary approved DT subdivision. Any discussion? No discussion, we'll go for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
And Nicole, I just want to commend you. You treat everybody the same. You are just a constant professional in what you do, and thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it. You make our job easier.
Thank you. Do you want to take this up and take a copy for yourself? And put the original in my mailbox?
That would be good.
Or else I can make a copy and put it in your mailbox?
Yeah, if you wanna do that, just go ahead. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is JJ doing his application?
Please.
Is he made a copy? So I can get a copy and give that to him if you want me to.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the DQ has to have that before they'll approve. And we have to get approval before they get there.
Yeah, so, yeah.
When you're ready, this is the second one. I don't want
Thank
to rush you. You can continue looking at it if you want. I was just going to throw
Oh, yeah.
the next one out there. How am I for time? Oh, good. Okay. So what I'm going to pass around now is the findings of fact in order for Gebhardt Minor, along with an email conversation that I had with our Mako Land Use Attorney, Tara Depew. I did verify with her that I could share this with the commission. I did not verify with her that I could share it with the public. So I'm not going to be providing emails or copies of this email with the public unless I hear from her, because she is an attorney and she does have the disclaimer on there that if you're not the intended recipient, you must destroy it. But you are welcome to look at this, her previous email. And I will read it aloud for the public, just to make that clear for the record. I just don't feel comfortable disseminating paper copies,
Okay.
unless you tell me differently.
Which by extension, we shouldn't either unless we hear from either you or Tara that it's okay for us to do that.
Do you mind sharing?
Yes.
I only made 3 too much. Folks want a copy of this? Bring that, you don't have a copy for you.
That's fine. I'll just sign you.
Okay, perfect. I only made 7 of each of these. So, I'm wondering if, again, if you would like me to read this email conversation between Ms. Depew and myself, aloud for the public to hear, as well as you folks as you're reading over it. I believe I forwarded it on to your emails, but I also wanted you to have a paper copy for your files.
Okay,
But I think that Tara's explanation here sets the tone for moving forward with the Gebhardt Estates, because I did pose the question to her on how to move forward, and so she did have some good advice. So, would you like me to read it aloud? Okay. I'll try and talk loud. So I'm going to start with your back page. This is my email to Tara Depew. Tara Depew is a Mako land use attorney. She specializes in land use law. So I emailed Ms. Depew. Oh, it's on this page. July 19th. So shortly after we left the last meeting. Hi Tara, thank you for the legislative update last week. You won't care about that. The planning board held a public hearing on June 28th for a 2-lot minor subdivision with 2 egresses. You may be familiar with one of the roads, Mostad Lane. In any case, the developer's representative, who plans to build on the newly constructed lot, was adamant that she will use Mostad Lane as her main access road, at which time the developer stated that there is a lawsuit on Judge Reynolds' desk regarding Mostad Lane. Upon hearing this new information, at their regular business meeting, the planning board determined that they could only recommend denial based on the fact that there may be pending litigation regarding this road that the future owner plans to use as her main ingress-egress, even though she has another access. At the county commission meeting, the commissioners determined that they would remand this subdivision back to the planning board for a second public hearing on the new information only, according to 76.3.615 of MCA. My dilemma is that I'm not exactly sure what information the developer should or can provide to the planning board for them to consider as new information, as Judge Reynolds has not made a decision on the injunction that was filed. I also attached a copy for her. Do you have any guidance or words of wisdom on this issue, as I'm just not sure where to go from here? Thank you so much, Nicole Brown. So, Ms. Depew responded about 10 minutes after I emailed her. She states, Nicole, here are my thoughts. Number 1, the subdivision is a 2-lot minor subdivision. It is not required to have 2 accesses. The commission could condition subdivision to state that at time of final plat, the subdivision will provide proof of legal and physical access to the subdivision. Doesn't matter which road or roads they provide proof of legal and physical access to the subdivision, as long as the subdivision has legal and physical access. Number 2, the fact that there is a lawsuit on Mosad Lane is not material to how the Planning Board Commission conditioned the subdivision approval. The condition just needs to state that at the time of final plat, the subdivision will provide proof of legal and physical access to the subdivision. If the lawsuit is settled or done by the time of final plat and the subdivision can use Mosad Lane, great. If not, both lots must use the other access. Number 3, I do not think the fact there is a lawsuit is new information. The Planning Board knew there was litigation and recommended denial. I don't think the Planning Board should have recommended denial because they could have just conditioned final plat as stated above. I also think that even if the lawsuit was new information, it is not relevant because 2 access are not needed to a 2-lot minor subdivision, and a condition can be imposed, as stated above, to just require proof of legal and physical access before final plat. I would cancel the public hearing before the Planning Board and schedule a commission meeting to impose the appropriate condition. If this creates a time frame problem, go ahead and hold the public hearing before the Planning Board, but advise the Planning Board that this issue can be conditioned, and the fact there is a lawsuit does not mean the subdivision cannot move forward. This issue comes up quite frequently, more often raised by the neighbor who is suing to stop access to the subdivision on a specific road. Hope this helps. Terry Depew, attorney at law. I don't recall if I read through the findings of fact at the last meeting. Do you want me to either read through it again or for the first time? Or what's your preference on this?
Yeah, you should.
Okay.
Because I don't recall any of it.
Perfect. I kind of don't think I did because of the denial issue.
Denial.
I don't think that I went through it. So I will read this one verbatim. So this is the Gebhardt's Estate subsequent minor subdivision preliminary.
Excuse me, do we have it here or is that just from you?
Did I pass that around? It should be right there on your right hand
This
side.
one isn't here. Oh, okay. So,
Is that it? Does it say Gebhardt?
Gebhardt Estates subscript.
Perfect, okay.
Okay. Sorry, right here.
Nope, that's okay. So the preliminary plat was dated April 27th, 2017. This is a proposed subsequent minor subdivision to be known as Gebhardt Estate Subsequent Minor. Date of application was January 9th, 2017. They received sufficiency May 23rd, 2017, and the review period will end August 17th, 2017. The Planning Board held a public hearing on June 28th, 2017. The applicant is Nita Ibarra of P.O. Box 181, Townsend, Montana. The applicant's representative is Connie Gebhardt of P.O. Box 1165, Townsend, Montana. General location, proposed subdivision is located approximately 0.2 miles south of the city of Townsend. Proposal. The applicants propose to develop 2 residential lots from an existing 4.23 acre parcel. These lots will be served by individual wastewater treatment systems and individual wells. Access to the proposed subdivision will be off of the subdivision road, Loki Lane, via the public road, Carroll Drive. The required preliminary review fee of $1,840 has been paid. The proposed subdivision is a subsequent minor subdivision from a tract of record, therefore a public hearing is required. The applicants are proposing 2 driveway approaches onto the subdivision road, Loki Lane, via the existing Carroll Drive, which is not a county road, so a driveway approach application and permit is not required. Review is performed pursuant to Montana Subdivision and Platting Act, Section 76.3101 through 76.3614, Montana Codes Annotated, and the Broadwater County Subdivision Regulations. The proposed preliminary plat, Gebhardt Estates Subsequent Minor Subdivision, as submitted by the applicants, together with the required supplementary plans and information, appear to satisfy the requirements of these regulations and with the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan dated July 2003. A preliminary plat, vicinity map, topographic map, firm floodplain map, lot layout, and soils map of the proposed subdivision have been provided. No rock outcroppings or the presence of bedrock have been identified on the property. The distance to bedrock is greater than 8 feet. The proposed subdivision is not in an area subject to flood hazard. These tracts will be served by individual wells. There's an existing home located on the proposed tract 2C with a well in place. The total depth of the well is 120 feet with a static water level of 5 feet. Yield is approximately 50 gallons per minute. A copy of the well log is included in the preliminary plat application as item number 14. These tracts will be served by individual wastewater treatment systems which require review and approval by the Department of Environmental Quality. There are no surface waters or wells that will lie within 100 feet of this subdivision's wastewater treatment systems. There is an existing and approved septic system in place on the proposed Tract 2C. Lot owners will be responsible for disposal of their own solid waste. The subdivision residents will have the option of hiring an independent contractor to pick up their solid waste or transport it themselves to the Townsend Canister site, which is approximately half a mile north of the proposed subdivision. The land is currently subdivision and not utilized for any grazing, farming, or residential purposes. Lands to the north and south are residential, lands to the east are agricultural, and land to the west is a one-lot subdivision with one residence. This two-lot subdivision will have a minimal effect on agricultural productivity, since the subject property is currently part of a subdivision. According to the applicants, no acreage will be removed from the production of crops or livestock grazing. The property is not considered prime farmland, even if it was irrigated, nor is it considered prime farmland or part of an economically viable farm unit. This subdivision is considered to be compatible with surrounding uses since the surrounding area is agricultural, subdivision residential, and grazing. No conflicts between the proposed subdivision and adjacent farm operations have been identified. It should not interfere with the movement of farm machinery, operation of any irrigation systems, or diminish the availability or quality of water in the area. An environmental assessment was required for this subdivision. No hazards such as falls, slides, or slumps are indicated on the plat. There is no known seismic activity. No geological conditions which might affect the development, such as unsuitable soils, were identified within the proposed subdivision. There are no areas of marsh, grassland, shrub, or forest located on the property. According to the weed management plan completed by the applicants, no noxious weeds have been identified on the property. The county weed coordinator has recently completed the site inspection. However, a signed and approved weed management plan has not yet been received confirming this. The applicants noted that any disturbed areas will be reseeded and any noxious weeds identified will be sprayed. According to the preliminary plat application, the only wildlife identified on the property are deer, rabbits, and gopher. Because of the size of the parcel and the close proximity to a major U.S. highway, any effects on wildlife should be minimal. According to Damon Murdo with the Montana Historical Society, there have been a few previously recorded historical sites within the designated search locale. A list of these sites is included in the preliminary plat application under item number 33. Mr. Murdo stated that even though there are historical sites in the area, as long as there will be no disturbance or alteration to structures over 50 years of age, a cultural resource inventory is unwarranted at this time. If any historical sites are identified during construction, MHS will be notified. There are existing ditches that may be affected. Their status is unknown. No new roads are proposed for this subdivision. Access will be off of Loki Lane via the existing 60-foot wide access easement for Carroll Drive. A portion of the access easement from Highway 287 to the proposed neighboring Jackson Minor west boundary line is owned by the adjacent landowner to the west for 165.07 feet. This is shown as a 60-foot wide access easement as well. The 60-foot access easement was shown on document number 119550 of Book 1, page 272, as access to a 9.045 agricultural parcel north and northwest of the preliminary approved Jackson Minor subdivision. The same access was shown again as a 60-foot access easement on document number 120988, Book 1, page 287, to a 5.0362 acre one-lot minor subdivision directly north of the preliminarily approved Jackson Minor subdivision. Since this 165.07 foot easement is part of a previously platted subdivision, it is assumed that it is intended for public use. Since the applicants are proposing only a two-lot minor subdivision, they should not be required to build the existing Carroll Drive to county subdivision road standards. The county shall request, however, that they contribute 1/50th per lot of the cost to upgrade the road. The applicants will obtain a bid estimate for the cost to upgrade the existing Carroll Drive to county subdivision road standards. Per the subdivision regulations, this road should be upgraded to a number 1 local road. The maximum number of vehicle trips per day for a number 1 local road is 400, which is equivalent to 50 lots. Therefore, the proposed Gephardt Estates subsequent minor subdivision developers shall be required to contribute 2/50ths of the cost to upgrade Carroll Drive to Broadwater County subdivision road standards. The responsibility of maintenance of the roads will be the developers until it is turned over to the homeowners. A letter from the developer's representative to both Vigilante Electric and Northwestern Energy are located in the preliminary plat application under item number 23. The letters request electric service to the one vacant parcel. The preliminary plat identifies a 15-foot utility easement along the eastern boundary of the proposed subdivision. The Broadwater Rural Fire District will serve the proposed subdivision. A letter was sent to the Broadwater Rural Fire District, but to date a response has not been received. The nearest fire station is the Townsend Fire Station, which is located approximately 0.4 miles north of the proposed development. The Broadwater County Sheriff, located in Townsend, will provide law enforcement. The Broadwater Ambulance Service, also located in Townsend, will provide both ambulatory and emergency services. The proposed development, according to the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan, will generate approximately 2 school-age children whom will attend school in Townsend. The Townsend school system should be able to accommodate this small number of children. This subdivision should be compatible with surrounding land uses, since there will be only 2 home sites placed upon the parcel. According to the applicants, the only known potential hazard is the close proximity to US Highway 287. In order to mitigate potential hazards, fences may be constructed to keep the animals and/or small children confined to the property. Since this proposed subdivision is a subsequent minor subdivision creating only 2 lots, no parks or recreation facilities are required. It's hereby ordered that the preliminary plat for the Gephardt Estates subsequent minor subdivision is approved, subject to the conditions listed below. Final plat approval shall be contingent upon completion and compliance with these conditions. Number 1, the applicant shall contribute 2/50 of the cost to upgrade the existing road, Carroll Drive, to Broadwater County subdivision road standards for a number 1 local road. It shall be required that they obtain a current estimate. Number 2, a signed and approved Montana Department of Transportation right-of-way agreement equal or greater than the county subdivision road requirements, which are approximately at a width of 24 feet, must be received. Number 3, the applicant shall provide proof of legal and physical access to the subdivision. Number 4, Loki Lane must be designed in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision road standards, stamped by a professional engineer, and submitted to the county planning department for review and approval. A letter from the PE shall be provided to the county stating that the road and any improvements have been constructed in accordance with approved plans and specifications, and that he or she has completed an inspection of the road and any improvements. A turnaround meeting the requirements of the Broadwater County subdivision road standards shall be constructed within the 1,500-foot distance from US Highway 287, or the Commission shall grant them access to utilize the existing Mostad Lane easement to allow for a loop road system. Number 5, a weed management plan for the existing development shall be submitted to the County Weed District for review and approval. Number 6, the applicants will be required to submit the final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. Number 7, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan should be equally acceptable to the FPHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash and lieu fee for water supply as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. Number 8, the final plat shall be prepared in accordance with applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Platting Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. Number 9, the ditch easement shall be shown on the final plat. Number 10, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenant filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, any additional replacement or relocated utility line shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. D, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property lines. E, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and or wastewater treatment system improvements and or maintenance. F, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county costs and attorney's fees, arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and maintenance of the following. Number 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and number 2, water availability. G, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. H, notification of the presence of agricultural operations in the vicinity. I, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. J, a waiver of right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. K, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. L, a notification that lots in this subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. If said improvements are not installed prior to final plat, then the applicant shall enter into a written subdivision improvements agreement with Broadwater County, guaranteeing the construction and installation of such improvements and shall excuse me, and shall provide an acceptable financial security guarantee in accordance with county subdivision regulations appendix E. Number 11, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall A, provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies, and B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate, showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names of lien holders or claimants of record and their written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders or claimants of record against the land. The applicant is financially responsible for actual outside engineering, consulting, professional and/or contracted service fees, etc., at the sole discretion of the county for additional review and/or final plat approval of the proposed subdivision. Preliminary plat approval of the Gebhardt Estates subsequent minor subdivision shall be enforced for 3 calendar years. At the end of this period, the governing body may, at the request of the subdivider, extend its approval for a mutually agreed upon period of time. Any mutually agreed upon extension must be in writing and dated and signed by the members of the governing body and the subdivider or subdivider's agent. The governing body may issue more than one extension. A party as defined by 763625 MCA who is aggrieved by a decision of the governing body may, within 30 days after this decision, appeal to the Broadwater County District Court. And I want to draw your attention specifically to that condition number 3, because myself and the planning board felt that it captured what Terra Depew was indicating we should, or how we should condition this development.
Number 3 on what page?
Number 3 on page 6. But I'm clearly at your mercy and open to suggestions, so.
Okay, now, Loki Lane,
Mhm.
does that come off that cul-de-sac that was,
Can I show you? On here. So if this is north, this way's north here. I'm gonna slide this over here if you don't mind. This is Carroll Drive. This is Highway 287, kind of rolls at an angle here. This is the city of Townsend here. So Loki Lane is this here. So it's this cul-de-sac, and then this portion of road, which it looks like is 530 feet. No, it's gotta be, no, 530, I suppose that's all. From here to here is Loki Lane. So this is Carroll Drive, and then it comes out here and ends in a cul-de-sac here at Loki Lane. And again, they are proposing, well, I don't even know that they're needing a shared driveway, but in any case, this access here runs along this way, and then these folks can come off of the cul-de-sac here. Does that answer your question?
yeah, okay, where's this gonna, when they come off from the cul-de-sac this way?
Here. And this is where the existing home is,
Oh, okay.
and so it's
Oh, and.
traveling kind of along this way here. Mhm.
Okay, because now, I recall, or about 4 years ago, that cul-de-sac was too far away from the Carroll driveway. We approved to extend it so that cul-de-sac could be put in to take care of this area.
And I don't know that was necessary, but it is a good idea because we do have in our regulations that a cul-de-sac cannot be more than 1,500 feet in length.
Right.
However, this is obviously not 1,500 feet in length, but it is greater than 1,500 feet from Highway 287 to the end of that cul-de-sac. So the reason we put that in on the Conrad minor subdivision was just basically to say we're aware of that. We are aware that this is greater than 1,500 feet. However, it is 2 roads.
And I think that at the time was talking about 200 or 300 feet, and we went along with that, and the access was off of Carroll Drive.
Correct.
Any other comments or whatever's?
Can I explain the ditch a bit,
Go ahead.
just in case that was going to be your
Just in
question?
case.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
So a search was done to determine any water rights that utilize that ditch, and we could not find any. As in, myself, I did a look when I was verifying their sufficiency. The developer's representative could not identify any water rights. So, and I believe Gil is here to answer questions. He did most of the paperwork on this, but didn't you also go to DNRC looking for water rights on that, or you
Yeah.
contacted DNRC?
Yeah, there are
Looking
no
for water
water
rights.
rights.
And they could not locate them. So again, that same disclaimer is going to be on this plat stating that if any are found, because a lot of times you know, someone might have something in their drawer, which doesn't always mean it's legal. I'm not pretending to say that's legal. But just to say, hey, if any water rights are ever found, they absolutely have access to that water.
Yeah, because that was all irrigated at one time through there, so there, somewhere down through there was some water rights.
At some
I'm
point in time,
assuming.
but from what I understand, there was a diversion that was created, and so that water was no longer used, and there was a different location where water was utilized. I don't have a whole lot of history on this,
The water,
as you gentlemen do.
goes to Brian Rogers across the highway.
Okay. But so I can say with full faith and confidence that the developer couldn't find any, and I could not find any
But it's in
to
there.
verify.
Yep.
But it's on the plat, that if they're ever found, they absolutely have access to use the water and to maintain the ditch as appropriate.
Any other comments?
Yep.
Any, the
So
board or anybody out there, the adjoining landowners or anyone, any comments or ideas or?
I got a question to ask. So from the commission standpoint, in number 4, what do they grant for access? On page 6, number 4? Yeah.
Would you like me to respond and let you know what my thought was on that condition?
Okay, go ahead if you wanna explain it out there.
So what my thought when I first presented this to the planning board for this condition was that the developers will have to hire an engineer to sign off on this road to say that Loki Lane is still at a number 1 local standard, which is what it was currently built to, or was previously built to. If they choose to not do that, they would then have to prove that they have access to Mostad Lane, because you have either got to have a cul-de-sac or a loop road system. Does that answer your question, Scott?
Mhm.
Okay. So they either have to get an engineer to sign off saying that Loki Lane is built to a number 1 local road standard per our subdivision regulations, or get proof that they can use Mostad. And so that's what they would have to come to me with before I would come to you for
So
final.
Loki Lane and Carroll Drive are
And
the
Carroll Drive,
access,
yes, they're the access. And Carroll Drive, they will not have to,
Cause it's already defined.
because it's already been shared by other users, not just this development. The reason they will have to on Loki Lane is because the only development that Loki Lane services is this development in Conrad Minor, which this is a subsequent of Conrad Minor. So when the developers completed Conrad Minor, they did have to engineer and construct Loki Lane because they were the only users of it. Now we're not asking them to go ahead and improve Loki Lane. They will just need to get an engineer to sign off and say, yes, it's still at a number 1 local standard.
And it's up to them to take care of that.
And then Carroll Drive, they'll have to pay the 2/50th because this is actually a 2-lot minor subdivision that we're reviewing here. So they'll pay the 2/50th. They will get a bid from a contractor of their choosing, a qualified road contractor to bid Carroll Drive of what it would cost to bring that up to a number 1 local standard,
And
and then pay 2/50th of that.
you're all aware of that and everything, and it's okay with everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions or comments from anybody?
I have some. If the public doesn't, let you guys go first. All right. The EA, that's new, isn't it?
No.
We don't see that very often.
We see an EA on a subsequent minor if it is not part of a growth plan, a Broadwater County growth policy plan, a preferred area, let's say that.
Okay,
Which this actually was part of a preferred growth area, but they still provided the EA.
okay.
So, but yeah, that's usually something, in the next one you'll see, they can opt out of it if it is part of a preferred growth area, or if it's a first minor. So as in the case of the DT minor, it was not required.
Okay, all right, they just did it to cross another T.
Mhm.
Okay. The ditches, you asked, or you answered that already. And I do have, see several areas in here where it talks about access will be off Loki Lane via Carroll Drive. Yeah, that and the ditch were really my only questions, and then verifying the roads. Looks good to me.
And all parties are aware of the Loki Lane and Carroll Drive, and all parties are satisfied with that. Okay,
Well, we've already been to court and it was established that Mustad Lane is access from the highway to my property. A 60-foot easement has always been on the books. And that had gone to Judge Reynolds.
okay. But that has nothing to do with this.
Well, for my portion of that land.
We just need one certified in and out, and we got it, Carol and Loki.
Right.
That's all we need.
That's
We,
what-
we're not even interested in the Mosted part right now.
Well, without further ado, I will move that we grant preliminary plat to the Gebhardt Estates subsequent minor subdivision.
I'll second the motion.
It moved and seconded, we give preliminary plat approval on the Gibbs Park subdivision. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
You're mighty kind. I'm ready to go, man. We got cement trucks lined up. We're ready. Gotta get the septic lifted now.
So, does that mean we can start?
We gotta get DEQ approval next.
Oh, okay.
So we're still,
For your sewer
one more little
system.
step to go through.
Yeah.
Go pay Ed his grand. Hope I have a fire and get my $1,000 worth of water. Up in Arkansas, I think it's $150 you can get up to 3,000 gallons of water delivered to your property. Either you get 10 gallons to 3,000 gallons, $150, and the water guy will bring it up. Cause there the wells are 1,000 feet, 1,200 feet. It's crazy. I mean, you gotta drill through all that rock. It's about $20 a foot or so.
Kinda like eastern Montana, where have drinking
Yeah.
water, they have to haul it usually, not always.
Oh man, they got lead in the water there too in Arkansas. That's why you see everybody's all kinda crazy and stuff.
So I have a question. After we get DEQ approval, can then we start putting the foundation and putting the well in the septic tank?
Sure. I got it all under control.
Is that how that goes? I'm
You'll
not
have to
sure.
come back for final. Once you finish all of these conditions that the commission just approved here, then you can come back and you can, we'll have to be back here at this table for final plat approval. And then it'll be recorded and you can go to work.
When will that be, Nicole?
As quick as you can get through these items on this list.
Oh, too late, it's already done.
Right?
No.
The ball's in your court now.
Okay.
Do you have a letter that I could take to Julie and I'll make
yes.
copies and
Yes.
I'll send that out?
When I finish up here today, so if you wanna come, you can either stay.
You
or
want me
the
to come
next
back
two items.
tomorrow?
Yeah.
That'd be fine,
And then I'll
yeah.
have a copy of this for you.
Great. I work over at the mill at night and I'm tired. I've been nervous waiting to get through today, so I'm gonna go take a nap till I get ready for work. And then I'll see you tomorrow.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
And congratulations.
I'm hurting too. We're running them 6-inch boards, that Douglas fir. Oh, man. If you guys ever want to lose weight, come over to the mill. See y'all. See you guys.
See you guys.
Left your water?
No, that's not mine, actually.
No.
Thank you.
I seen that. Hey, you guys.
Probably right with that water being scarce.
Okay, I'm going to bed. See y'all.
Like you-
Right.
I just chatted.
You go ahead and chat and I'll pass these up. So this is Lake Vista Lot 4. I think I made a mistake and put Lake Vista Lot 3 on the agenda. Which that one you've already given preliminary plat to. you want, like, this to lot 4 for any
What's it
reason?
for?
A subdivision?
No.
Okay. I just didn't want you to feel left out.
No, thank you though.
So Laura, your suggestion was that I can still move forward with this today, do you think?
Yeah, what I suggested to Nicole, since there is a typo and it does say on the agenda that we're reviewing lot 3 and it's actually lot 4, what I suggested to her is that we continue on, go ahead and put the same information with lot 4 on the agenda for Monday. We can do a revised agenda, post it per MCA, and then we can reaffirm our decision today on Monday, and that way it's covered.
So
Unless you guys
it
have an
should be
issue with
called
that.
lot
It
3
should-
instead of
it
lot
sh-
4.
It should be 4, and I think it says 3 on the agenda.
Says 3 on the
Yeah.
agenda, 4.
Oh, on the agenda,
Yeah.
okay, here it says 4.
If it was
Yeah,
a
the-
major difference like Grasshopper Creek versus Lake Vista, then it would be something that we'd have to actually advertise it. But since it's lot 3 and 4, I don't think there'd be an issue with just reaffirming on Monday, unless you guys have an issue with that.
And I can tell you, as far as adjacent landowners are concerned, they are all the same, except for this one. I don't know if you recall lot 3 that we just looked at, well, I should say just a few weeks ago. I was here for preliminary on this one, on lot 3. So lot 4 has all the same, except for this. One of the adjacent landowners is this. But so all of the adjacent landowners that were notified for 3 were notified for 4 as well. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
There's nobody here who's in opposition,
Okay.
and there was nobody at the public hearing. Again, if those things were different, then certainly we would go ahead and put on the brakes and redo it with lot 4, but
Yeah, it's, okay with me,
I'm fine by it.
so I guess that's,
Okay. Do you want me to read this verbatim? Or do you want me to give you a summary?
a summary.
In full disclosure, I literally took the staff report that I wrote for lot 3 and plugged in 4 because everything is identical. So you've already heard all of this before. So the applicants are James Nelson and Eldo Heinley out of Bozeman, Montana. The representative is Bernadette Swenson, located off of Alaska Trail, approximately 4 miles northwest of the city of Townsend. This was the previously approved Lake Vista subsequent minor subdivision. It was a 5-lot minor subdivision, and so this is a subsequent split of lot 4 of the Lake Vista subsequent minor subdivision, thus the Lake Vista lot 4. The developers intend to create 5 lots from an existing 14.92 acre parcel. All of the lots are proposed to be 2.98 acres. They're all proposed to be utilized as commercial or residential lots, which the developer does have the latitude to do so. DEQ will review this for septic and well location. The preliminary review fee and weed inspection fee have been paid. Let's see, what else can I tell you that would be pertinent? Solid waste. Lot owners could either hire a private contractor to haul their solid waste, or they could hire it to Townsend Canister Site, which is probably the closest canister site, or the Broadwater County Transfer Station. The current use of this parcel is vacant subdivision land. No effects on agriculture, since this is already part of a subdivision. An EA is not required, since this proposed development lies within an area covered by the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan. Nothing adverse about the geology. Vegetation, this property is pretty sparsely vegetated, maybe some native grasses. And Any disturbance will be reseeded with a grass seed mix. Effects on wildlife and habitat should be minimal, mostly because of the close proximity to nearby residential development and the busy Highway 287 that runs just near this. No historical, paleontological, archaeological locations identified on this property. Access to all lots will be off of the existing internal subdivision road Alaska Trail via US Highway 287. Alaska Trail is a previously approved subdivision road. And I want to note here, even though I know that the last folks aren't here for this, but the reason I put that condition in Conrad Minor is because Loki Lane is being utilized. There are 2-3 lots that currently utilize Loki Lane. Alaska Trail does not have any residents at all utilizing it right now. There's one home being constructed, so they have some construction traffic and maybe some real estate traffic of folks looking. But I just want that to be known that I'm not putting that in as a condition that these folks need to re-engineer or have an engineer look at the road because there's no traffic on the road. So anyway, that's my explanation. Let's see, utilities will be provided by Northwestern Energy. And electricity is currently available to Lake Vista Lot 4. It lies within Alaska Trail. Broadwater County Rural Fire District will serve this development. The developer is requesting to pay the per lot cash in lieu fee of water supply of $1,000 per lot, payable at the time of sale and closing on each lot. To date, a response from the fire department has not been received. Sheriff's Office will provide law enforcement. Students will go to Townsend schools. Lands to the north of this property are part of a proposed subdivision, Lake Vista Lot 3. Lands to the south and west are subdivision, and lands to the east are US Highway 287 and Fish, Wildlife, and Parks property. Effects on public health and safety. Since the property is bordered on the east by the heavily traveled US Highway 287 and to the west lies the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, these could potentially pose a serious risk to the safety of subdivision residents, especially to children and domestic animals. These risks can be mitigated by proper setbacks, fencing, and homeowner awareness. And since this is a subsequent minor, no parks and rec facilities are required. So it's hereby ordered that the preliminary plat for the Lake Vista Lot 4 subsequent minor subdivision is approved, subject to the conditions listed below. Final plat approval shall be contingent upon completion and compliance with these conditions. Number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply submitted to DEQ. Sorry. Losing my voice. 2, a stormwater drainage plan submitted to DEQ for review and approval, or review and recommendation, I'm sorry. 3, the applicant will be required to submit preliminary and final plat drawings in electronic format. 4, plans for the location and installation of individual mailboxes shall be reviewed and approved by the U.S. Postal Service prior to installation. Number 5, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision. In accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations, the plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by the final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply, as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations, in effect at the time of submittal. 6, prior to any development and/or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the County Weed District for review and approval. Number 7, book and page reference to the restrictive covenants filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations, and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, a notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for the seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, notification of the potential degradation of existing emergency services due to the potential for growth in a rural area.